1. Are you planning on racing Ironman Frankfurt in Germany this year and wondering about what you'll expect in the swim, the bike, the run? Well, perfect. Well, this is the video for you because in it, an experienced coach who is a multiple Ironman Frankfurt finisher and Kona qualifier is going to talk you through exactly what you need to know. And I'll be here for the ride and I'll ask all the questions you will be thinking of. But how are we going to do this and why should you watch the video? Well, my name is Coach Steve or Steven Moody. I am an Ironman U certified coach and more recently a YouTuber. I will say YouTuber rather than influencer because I don't want to sound like a tosser. And what I do is I do race reviews of 70.3 and Ironman distance around the world. And after I exhausted all the ones I've done, I reached out to my really cool network and kind of asked people like Owen, who we're going to talk to now, who have done the races, who can, I'll ask the questions you will be curious about as a first timer, as an athlete looking back, looking for a bit of edge on it. Like, so, and you will get the great insight. So, as I said, delighted to have Owen Martin on the call today, as in he is a multiple Ironman finisher. Was Ireland's record number of Kona qualifications as well. So he is, and is a top-notch coach, and he has a very strong link to Frankfurt, doing it a number of times. Owen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how many times have you done this course?
Hey, Stephen. Well, I think you've covered it all there, really. So, in terms of Ironman distances, I think I've covered 27 to 30. I've actually lost count, so somewhere between 27 and 30. Haven't raced Kona 12 times, so I had to qualify 12 times. So there's 24 straight away. Yeah, so I have raced Frankfurt 4 times, finishing 3. The last time I didn't actually finish the race. It's one of my favorite races, hence with racing it 4 times. So very familiar with the course. So yeah, I should know quite a bit about it that your viewers will find
Ah,
interesting or
you're
even helpful.
you're underselling yourself, Owen. You know this thing inside out, and I'm gonna completely tap into your knowledge. So, let's, for want of a better pun, dive into the swim start. It is an unusual swim start, isn't it? Was it because it had one of the few European races with an Australian accent? Do you want to talk us through what people can expect on the day?
Yeah, the swim, as you said, it is unusual that it has an Australian accent, which I actually quite liked. Even for those who may be deciding to have this for possibly the first Ironman, I think this was my third Ironman I did. I know I did Austria, Lanzarote, and then I think maybe Frankfurt was my third. I think something like that. I was actually quite glad of the Australian accent because I was actually on my first time doing it. I was quite gassed on the first lap, and to be able to get out of the water, and I think it may only be 50 meters. It's not very long at all. You're out and you're back in again, but that what 30 seconds or whatever it took me to walk around. I actually walked around. I was so gassed. It was really nice just to get your breath, get your bearings, reset everything, and then go again for the second lap. I found that actually quite good. As you said, it's not too often that actually happens anywhere, probably. Well, it's most certainly in Europe. I liked it. I liked the aspect of that. The second lap of the swim course, as you see on the map there, is pretty straightforward. It's just out and back. What I would say is on the second loop, on that first loop, actually, there's quite a good sighting point. They actually have a big Gatorade bottle. There's something huge in the distance, which is actually quite easy to sight off for your first lap, your straight and exit. And then in your second lap, when you're coming back in to the beach, you need to be mindful of the weather because if you know it's going to be a bright and sunny morning and not really much clouds in the sky, you will be swimming directly into sunlight. Which was quite difficult. So I think the first time I got caught out that way, and the second and third time and the fourth time, I had tinted glasses on. Each time I did it was hot, sunny conditions. I think twice with wetsuit and twice without wetsuit. The first time I qualified, actually Frankfurt was the first time I actually qualified for Kona, and that was the first year I ever swam with no wetsuit. It was the first time I qualified for Kona. I qualified no wetsuit. So that's something to keep in mind as well too, if this may possibly be your first Ironman, or if you're a little bit iffy with not swimming without a wetsuit. I think it's definitely one of the more probable races in Europe that will go non-wetsuit simply for the size of the lake. But it's not a lake; it's a reservoir or whatever it happens. I think it's a quarry reservoir or something like that. The water quality is good. I've always found it quite clear. It sounds quite murky, a quarry reservoir. But I've always found the water quite good. I drank quite a bit of it. It never done me any bit of harm. but it's something to keep in mind. Who knows? It just depends on the weather.
Yeah.
What's 80% wetsuit, 20% no. But don't go to Frankfurt. Going, it's definitely going to be a wetsuit. Keep an eye on the weather. It's normally July time. Normally over in Germany that time the weather can be quite hot. So just be mindful of it and be prepared for it. It worked in my favour the first year, simply because for the weeks leading into the race, I kept, as we all do, I kept checking the weather app, and it was just 30 plus degrees for weeks on end. And before I even got on the plane to head to Frankfurt, even though I didn't want to do it, I consoled myself that it was going to be a non-wetsuit swim. And when the announcer made the announcement in the athlete race briefing that day, I was never so happy because the whole room sank whenever he said, "Look, first off, there's no wetsuit." And I just looked around the room, and everybody just seemed so
Yeah,
bloody
deflated.
deflated. And it actually inflated me. And even before I'd done the race, I said, "No, I will qualify for Kona today," because most of the field was destroyed simply because of a decision that we didn't have to swim in a wetsuit.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
funny, yes,
so
and I've also done. This was my first Ironman I've ever done, and it was also non-wetsuit swim. And I took the exact same strategy. I think everybody was on at that stage. We don't even we had WhatsApp at that stage, but we're everyone email and Facebook were all going, "Oh, it's going to be non-wetsuit. It's wetsuit." I actually, I said, just because the energy draining thinking about it, I said, I'm assuming it is now a non-wetsuit swim 3 days out. I went, anything else is a bonus, and then. As I said, so you went in and it was confirmed as a non-wetsuit swim, but you're right, the water quality is lovely. And the Australian exit for me, I find it was good because you can actually check your watch. You know, the way you're in the water, you have no real, you sometimes when you're more experienced like yourself, you'd get a better idea what pace you're going. I had no idea, but I went out and I went, okay, look, I'm fine. I'm not anywhere near cut off.
yeah,
Um, so
you know,
no, I 100% agree with you. And on that, as I said, I'd do a lot if you're going to be swimming in it. Make sure you're doing long open water swims without a wetsuit as well, and it'll help you prepare in the day. Any other
yeah.
tips you have on the swim course itself, there, Owen?
Do you know, going back to the non-wetsuit swim, I can remember one year I did Austria, and it was a wetsuit swim, but it had to be so borderline. Like they must have went to some part of the lake and found a chilly part of the
Yeah.
water, and we did the swim in Austria, and we wore wetsuits, and I came out of the water and that time, and I took my wetsuit off, and it was just the most, I absolutely cooked in the
Yeah.
wetsuit to the point it wasn't good. So I know swimming with a non-wetsuit can be a little bit intimidating, but believe me, when they make that decision, it's the proper decision to make. So it is. So keep that in mind when you're going there. Not really. I suppose the main tips is get your breath back under control on that first lap of the swim. On your second lap, you will be, if it's a bright morning, swimming into direct sunlight, and also as well too, which the first two times I did it, and again, I was really trying to rush T1. It's quite a steep bank up into transition, and they do have this lovely, well, the time I did it, these lovely, beautiful red carpet up it on a sandy beach, but it's quite steep. I don't know what percentage wise, but it could be 40%. It's just so bloody steep. And the first two times I ran up it like Usain Bolt, and I got to the bike and I had to just stand. I was absolutely heart rate maxed at that stage.
Yeah.
The second two times I did it, more wise head on my shoulders, I walked up it. By that stage, it depends on what your swim time is. If you're a 50-minute swimmer, 52, 55, it'd be okay. The carpet won't be that crumpled up. For me at the time, I was in around the 1 hour swimmer, so it was just all bunched up. And it was like doing a bloody assault course, running up this 20, 30, 40-meter red carpet. I would walk up it. If you're the faster swimmer, it may not be too bad by the time you get there. But if you're 110 backwards, then swim time, it's going to be crumpled up. Unless they fixed it now in the last couple of years, but they found it really, really difficult to run up, and also possible. What happened to me in Lanzarote one year on the Australian accident, I actually went over on my ankle and sprained my ankle coming out of the swim. So look, just walk up it, folks. And whenever you get to the top, it's a lovely flat run to your bike. Jog on then. Save your breath, save your energy, and get to your bike, not ruining your day before you even get on the bike.
Yeah, no, absolutely top advice. And again, I would also say the same for the Australian accent. People see take your time and all rest and kick your legs a little bit more when you're coming into the what you call it, the shore, to avoid those jelly legs, because you see people trying to bounce up and all and they all get a bit wobbly, and as you said, it's not helping your race more than it's a risk of actually sort of messing you up for a few 10, 15 minutes where you're trying to get your head back together in the game. So yep, walk up that nice red carpet. It'd be nice. even if it is a non-wetsuit swim, it's going to be a lovely day for you as well. I do remember the water was pristine and all the rest. Okay, so we'll move on a little, but just again for newbies, as in just note that your cutoff time for the swim when you cross the mat, and I'll talk a little bit about how the rolling start works in Ironman. You've got 2 hours and 20 minutes to get the job done. But we mentioned a rolling swim start. What does that mean? And again, this is something that Ironman has put in place because they were very aware. A lot of people, they obviously did surveys, and people said, "Why don't you do the Ironman?" And went, "No, the swimming's too scary." Because they'd watched scenes of Lanzarote and Nice where everyone's just all piling into the water. It looks very scary. It's very impressive. But what they do is what they call a seated or rolling swim start. And when you arrive on the day, you will see different corrals when you arrive at T1, different corrals which indicate times under 50 minutes, under an hour and 10 minutes, all the way up to over an hour and a half. Um, and that's where you seed yourself based on your estimated swim time. And this allows our man to do two things: control the flow of the faster swimmers into the water, and just control the number of swimmers in the water a little bit more easily. As you can see, this is how it works. You're going along. This isn't Frankfurt. That's a screenshot from an American race, but I love it. It's great. Helps me talk through it. These are guys, and let's say they're in the 1 hour, 10 minute corral. And as they're walking in, there'll be volunteers holding them back here. And what will happen is the beep will go off. The volunteers will literally lift up their hands, and the guys will go into the water as 4 by 4. A little bit more than Noah, but like as you see, the guys are in the water. And then that's how they slowly control the water, the swimmers into the water. What advice, Owen, do you give guys in terms of seeding themselves for swimming? Is there any pros and cons of going at the front? What's your feedback on that?
I think my feedback would be honest with yourself. If you're a 1 hour swimmer, you're okay with going. I would think if 1 hour swimmer, I normally go with the 55-minute guys, because there's not really that much disparity between those guys. But if you know, we all know what we're roughly going to swim before we get to these races: 1 hour, 110, 20, 30, just whatever it happens to be. But don't be the guy who, well, it'll probably take me an hour and a half, but seed yourself with the 1 hour 10. And say, I'll get pulled along. The only thing that's going to happen there is you're going to get swam over and make your day. Well, even if you make it out of the swim, you're going to get just pounded on, because when these swim starts, it's not that anybody is particularly intentionally violent. Everybody's always in survival mode for the first 1 to 200 meters. And if you're a 1.5 hour swimmer going with the 1 hour guys, no one knows you. So just seed yourself as honestly as you can. As I said, if you're a 1 hour swimmer, I would have no difficulty going with the 55-minute swimmers, and just seed yourself that way. I can going back many years ago, the local triathlon here, right at the start line, and I knew this one particular guy who would have swam, and I'm not the most speediest of swimmers, but he was standing beside me, and I said, "What are you doing here?" I get pulled along. I says, "You're just going to get pummeled. You're absolutely, no one cares at the start." Yeah. So this was in the days of a mass swim start, and I've done so many mass swim starts. It's a scary place to be for that first 1, 2, 3, 400 meters. So it is. Yeah. So seed yourself wisely, and from Ironman, I wasn't a big fan of the rolling start. I'm not overly too sure if I am or not, but in saying that, it does take away all of that aggressiveness. For me, it's a really safe thing to do. Every race I've done, I normally seed myself at the 55-minute guys. That's a bit faster than what I could swim. But even at that, I found myself swimming solo for every single 70.3 and Ironman I've done to date. From that, it's safe. It is very safe.
Yeah, and also there's an element. If you said, when people say they're going to pull along, you're only going to get pulled along at the same rate of swimmers who may be like 5 seconds, 100 faster than you. You're not going to suddenly be able to hang on to the coattails of someone. If you're a 2 minutes per 100 swimmer, 2:15, you're not going to be able to hang on to the feet of anyone who's like a 1:30. You're gone. And so putting yourself with groups of similar swimmers, that's where you get pulled along. So absolutely. 100% agree with Coach Owen here that stage. Seed yourself accordingly. Start your day off well. This is just 1/3 of what is a very big day for you. Okay, we'll move on to that's the rolling swim start, and we'll move on to a little bit on transition. It's a split transition, and also I'm gonna before I let Owen talk through the ins and outs of Frankfurt specific. It's also what Ironman calls a clean transition. So anyone who's done a local sprint or Olympic, you know, you put your runners and your bike and your helmet, everything together beside the bike. Ironman doesn't have that because of sheer numbers that they do, and everything, as they call it, a clean transition. So they use this system of a bike and run bags. Blue is your bike bag, blue for run, for bike, easy to remember, and red is your run bag, red for run. And it means you will pack, and as part of your transition setup, you will be racking. You'll have packed your bag in your bike bag with all your helmet, your shoes, your shades, anything you're going to use in the bike. Same way you'll pack with your red bag, and you will that your runners, your visor, etc. And you'll have to set that up in T1 and T2, which is split, which Owen's going to talk to in a moment. And this is part of your whole race day experience. So it might sound a little bit worrying, but it's a very simple video in the comments below that shows you what the bags are involved, what you put in each bag, etc. There's also personal need bags, which means you can pick up and stop on the race course and get if you've got specific sandwiches, Imodium, whatever you want in there. Was it spare CO2 canisters in case you're nervous? They'll be put on the bike bags. So this is a clean transition. You will need to use bike bags. Check out the video in the comments below. Okay, but the actual transition itself, Owen, do you want to talk us through it? I can do a little red dot. This is your run up this is where I swim exit after our second loop and we're running up. Can you remember anything key about transition or you want to share with the guys?
The only thing, for me, the only real important thing about transition is that run up the beach. Because once you get up on that beach and you can see where all the bikes are actually right there, it's a huge transition. Know where you parked your bike. Because, for example, on the day before, whenever you go to transition and you rack your bike, depending on what time of the day you go, there may be 50 bikes there, there may be 1,500 bike there. And even myself, you rack your bike and you look around, yeah, I'll remember that. And then, you're nervous with the swim. You go into the swim, your heart rate's elevated, your adrenaline's pumping, and then you suddenly, if you run up that bank, you're gassed. You run through transition and you go, oh, where's my bike? And it's very, very confusing. So for me, in the past, I've always looked. So if I was number 1, 2, 3, well, they do number them fairly well these days. But even I've quite often have had to look at my wristband to remember my race number. But generally what I do is I might look at it to say there could be a power bar, a Gatorade, a power bar sign, there could be a Portaloo, there could be a tree, there could be a building in the distance, something that's always in line with where my bike is parked. And something of note, something big, a poster, anything whatsoever. So I know, okay, I need to look for the church. And I see the church, my bike's directly in line with that. And run straight to your bike. You will not believe the amount of people you see running around like headless chickens because they actually forget what they racked their bike the day before, and with the confusion of the race and the hustle and bustle and that type of stuff. Note as well, if your bike is racked on the right hand side and you duck under the bar where the bikes are racked, you will get a penalty for that. So if you run down here and your bike's actually it's on the same rack, but you have to run around to take off your bike. If you duck under that barrier, it's the exact same in every single Ironman race. Yeah. You get a yellow card or a blue card or some form of a penalty, maybe a 30-second standing penalty. You need to run down, you need to run back and take your bike off the rack in the correct way it's meant to be. So be mindful of that. And so just know where your bike's parked. There's 2,000-3,000 bikes in there. And like I said, on the day before the race, there could be 100 or 200 bikes in there and it looks quite empty. You turn up race morning and now there's 3,000 bikes in there, all generally parked quite tight together. Look for a landmark. You're not allowed anymore to put a little tricolour flag or a little county flag or whatever it happens to be. So you'll see that. That's not allowed anymore. If you do that, whenever you're in the swim, Ironman will come without a doubt and they will take that off. Yeah. So if you're expecting your county flag to be flying whenever it will be gone. And that'll be even more confused. So you need to pick a landmark, something that you are 110% sure when you come out of the water, it will still be there. A church, a sign, a portaloo, something like that.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and you're 100% right as well. And you see athletes, like they put talcum powder on the floor and all the rest. But Ironman, the marshals go around and when they're swimming, they clean all that stuff up. Yeah. So we're out up our little hill here. We come around. There's toilets there. This is where you'll find your blue bags, which again, you'll take your wetsuit off, you'll put the wetsuit in there, and you'll take your bike kit out of that. You'll run down, and as Owen correctly right, these racks will be numbered or lettered A, B, C, D. I can't remember which was letter numbers, And then remember which one you go down. As Owen said, I'm looking for the power gate sign. There it is. Pick up the bike, and then you're up to the mount line here, which means you have to get your bike fully over that before you're actually getting on the bike. What's your top any for a newbie? What's the top tip you would give for a fast and efficient T1?
Know what's in your bag. No, because know exactly what's in your bag and know exactly what you need for the bike. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but you remember, I think that the swim to the bike transition is probably the most hustle bustle one of the day, because it's you're pumped, you want to get on the bike, you want to go and your adrenaline's up, and it's really amazing how your mind can just forget the most simplest of things. Keep it simple. As you mentioned there a few moments ago, you are allowed, look, you will have enough bottle cages on your bike, enough gels with you, enough bits and pieces to get you certainly through the first 90k anyway. You are allowed special needs. You will never ever run out of fluid. You will never run out of anything whatsoever. So don't pack too much onto your bike. Like the first time, the very first Ironman I did, I actually still have a photograph of it. I had 2 bottles here, I had 2 bottles behind me, and I had the full aero thing on the front as well. I had 5 kilos
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
more of fluid on my bike, something which you definitely do not need, So keep it simple. Keep it very, very, very simple. And I know it's probably the likes of myself, it comes almost second nature now. If I was to do a race tomorrow morning, I know exactly what's going in my bag. I pack my bags within 2 minutes. But I do understand in the past, for 70.3, not so much, but certainly for an Ironman, I think quite a lot of the pre-race nerves and stress come about from what I put in my bag, what
Yeah,
I put in my bike bag, what is in my run bag, and it's really simple. The rules are very clear. Take your time to read the rules. What is in your bike bag? Some transitions allow you to have your helmet on the bike. Some do not. Your helmet has to be in your bag. Some transitions allow you to have your shoes clipped in.
yeah,
Some you need to have anything. So you need to know the rules.
yeah.
Like, for example, if you didn't read the rules and you left your shoes clipped into your bike, and it wasn't the rules are that your shoes need to be in your bag. When you swim, someone will take your shoes off your bike, and they may put them in your bag. So
Yeah.
next time you've arrived to your bike and you've no shoes, somebody stole your shoes. Nobody stole your shoes. Just the Ironman official came and said,
Yeah,
took them off,
exactly.
and hopefully for you, put them in your bag.
Yeah, no, agreed. And again, I do emphasize these videos are very useful, but also definitely you need to read the athlete briefing when for the year, and also attend the call as well, because things can change. And I do love your point about the having 5 kg worth of fluid on your bike. And you think about the amount of effort that people go to get their weight down on in an Ironman training, and also they buy the lightest bikes ever, and then they can almost like double the weight of the bike by just having it. And
Double, yeah.
there's an
It's
element of just trusting the aid stations as well. Like the aid stations are there for a reason. You don't need to have all the fluid with you. You definitely need to be make sure in case you miss a couple of aid stations. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, no, I think it's hilarious. These like top end bikes with 14 bottles on them and like all the gels stuck on them. I'm like, no, no, not necessary.
No, you don't that. Like you've done too much training, and like your day is going to be long enough as it is without putting 5 kilos of extra weight on your bike. It's like getting on the bike, sticking a rucksack on it, and then trying to pedal, and then wondering, Jesus Christ, why is it so bloody hard today? If you have 5 kilos extra to
Yeah, yeah.
push.
No, absolutely. All right, we'll move. So we're out of transition. And before we go on to the bike course, I just want to give a shout out to Owen for again for thank for his, as you can see he knows his course inside out. He's a brilliantly knowledgeable guy. There, I'm going to have his email and his other contact details in the comments below. But that's his Instagram handle. He's way cooler than me. I'm all about the YouTube, but he's got the Instagram game going. For me, please just like the video if you're finding it useful and you're finding Owen's chat useful. I definitely am. And if you consider that you want to do looking for other kind of races down the track or other triathlon related content, please consider subscribing. Anyhow, that's enough of the sell. On to the bike course. This is one. Was a 2 loop course. It's always. Is this one of the harder bike courses on the Ironman circuit in Europe? What's your take on it, Owen?
It's one of the more deceiving ones, I would think. As I know, what drew me to the bike course the first time, the race, the first time was a fast time. So the swim, it's over and done with now. You have when you leave transition, there's roughly a 1k. You're in the little it's forest, and then you're out onto this huge road. It's 16 or 20k. I forget the exact distance back into town. It is on a low wind day, it's actually net downhill. It seems like a very flat road, but it's actually net downhill. So the speeds can be quite high, going in there. And it also depends on where you are swim-wise. If you're a 1 hour swimmer or below, there'll not be that many on the road. If you're 1:15, 1:30 or backwards, there'll probably be many on the road. So it's actually quite a fast section going down there. Again, for me, the fast sections are good. And for me, the fast sections, people tend to get carried away in these. It's flat, 40 kilometers per hour, 45, 50, whatever your ability is. And you are flying, probably above your own ability. And you haven't 15K of the bike done yet, but you're moving fast. Everything's good. You're excited. For me, especially if you're a beginner, even intermediate, whatever it is, calm down. Keep everything calm on that 10 to 15K or 20K or whatever it happens to be back into town. Ideally, when you get to town, Frankfurt City, Frankfurt, your heart rate needs to be back under control. You need to have some fluids in. You need to have your gels in. Whatever your specific nutrition plan is, you need to have it settled by that 20K. If you get to Frankfurt and you've set a record going in the road at 50 kilometers per hour and you're gassed on the flat of the road, when the hills and the difficulty comes, well, your day is not going to end pretty well or pretty for you. So look, use that first 20K as a settler. Even for the more experienced guys out there as well too, it's nice to be moving fast. That adrenaline buzz, whizzing in the road, everything's good. You're in the Tour de France. You're going to win the race in the first 20K. Well, quite potentially you'll ruin your race in the first 20K. So get yourself settled, get your fluid, get your nutrition, get your bits and pieces in, get your mind in the right place. You have 20K of 160K done. You have a long day ahead of you. So that's that. You're back into Frankfurt, in around the city, a very short loop in around the city, and then you're back out in the countryside again after that.
Road surface. I remember the road surface being quite good, but there was some parts of the village with a little bit cobblestones. What's your take on the road surface?
The road surface, well, especially if you're Irish or in the UK or whatever it is, and the road surface is a dream to ride on, an absolute dream to ride on. And you're correct when you're saying there's one section of it. It's a very short section. They make a thing of it. I forget even what they call it anymore. This hill or whatever it is, it's not even a hill. If those cobbles weren't there, you would fly up it. It is not steep, but it's quite cobbly for 1, 2, maybe 300 meters. So, and it does get quite busy, especially on the second lap. And each time I've did it, it's just, I probably should have stopped and picked up Garmins and picked up tubes and picked up water bottles, because they're just lying there. Be smart at that stage. No, it is definitely there. So I tried 2 days. So the first year I got caught out. I knew it was there. I just didn't know how bad it was. And I got shook. I think I lost something, nothing too important. I went slow. And then the second year I go, so I wonder if I go fast. So I got to it and I absolutely bombed up it. So I did. I still lost everything. So I did, because it was just so bumpy and stuff. And the third time I went up it somewhere in between. But again, I had many more Ironmans under my belt at that stage. I was a little more wise. I had all my bottles fixed in with elastic bands, so I knew they wouldn't pop out. I had anything that was super important to me. Well, the Garmin stayed on. Your spare tubes, your CO2s, any additional nutrition. You may have gels taped to your bar, Mars bar, whatever it happens to be. Anything that is important to you to get you through your day, it needs to be very, very, very secure. And especially I see so much now in Ironman races and 70.3 races. Maybe you see them yourself. Those aero bottles they have now, like whoever's selling them is making a fortune, because they're laying all around the roads of the world. They're just so insecure. Whatever bottle you use, and I even think if you even watch the professionals nowadays, some company has made like a wee lad where you put around the tops of your bottles and they'll stay in. But an elastic band will just do the job just as well. So, and you have to go up that twice. So the last thing you want to be doing is losing on your first lap. A very important part of your nutrition plan, whether it be food, solid gels, or your drinking bottles.
Yeah, and we'll talk about aid sessions in a little bit. So it's a 2 lap. We're out on this, and we're out in the course, and we do it twice. There's a couple of hills on this, around 60K, and then was it around 140K? I wonder, one of them's called Heartbreak Hill, but I think they call anything that's a hill in an Ironman a Heartbreak Hill. What's your take on the hills? Are they out of the saddle stuff? Are they kind of short, sharp? What's your advice to people getting prepared for them?
I suppose it depends on your ability, but going back to what I said there a few moments ago, it's a deceivingly difficult-ish course. I forget what the overall gain is for it, but It's quite hilly. Like
Mm.
once you get through the city, that Heartbreak Hill you're talking about, it's probably the first. You go up over a bypass, take a right, and then you're onto Heartbreak Hill. It's not overly steep. It's not even overly long. The road surface is perfect. I don't know the percentage of it, but it's just a hill, like every other hill on the course that you need to, mind yourself going up it. It's not an Alpe d'Huez. It's not a Mount Ventoux or like that. It's if you go up it too hard, like any hill, you will pay the price for it later on the day. Um, just at that particular hill. I know you want to say about the aid stations on that. I'm not even too sure if they even still do this, but that's what one of the aid stations are. One of the race aid stations are. Now, in the past, whenever I've been there, your family was actually allowed, as part of the rules, there was nothing wrong happening. Um, Once the official aid station finished, your family was able to stand there with your special needs bag if you
Oh,
wish.
that's nice.
Yeah, so I used that. So I did. Because it was easy to spot my wife Ashleen, and it was actually quite good. Now, if you're going to do the race this year or next year, that's just one of the things you need to check. But the four times I did it, it was there.
Yeah. No, I,
And the rest of the hill, look, just be mindful. There's lots of climbing on it. You have two
yeah.
loops. You Heartbreak Hill twice. There's a few long drags on it. There's a few really fast descents on it. So bike handling skills is essential. Um, One year, I did it. It was torrential rain. It was torrential rain and hailstones, and I actually punctured that year, and it was just so difficult to change. It took me 12 minutes to fix the puncture. So if it's going to be a nice sunny day, well, you're all good. If it's going to be a sort of an inclement day where maybe rain may be possible, you need to prepare for that too. You can maybe have a jacket in that special needs or something like that there, or have it somewhere. You may never need it, but it's best to plan ahead for these things.
Absolutely. So we talked a bit about there's some hills in it, there's some descents in it. Um, if you have the option of a road bike or a TT bike, I think I know what you're going to say here, but what's your recommendation?
A TT bike is always faster.
I
Even in the likes of Lanzarote, if you take Ironman Lanzarote, one of the more hilly courses out there, the more difficult courses there, a TT bike is faster all day long on that
yeah,
course. So yeah.
definitely. And was the wind an issue for you at all in any of your 4 years?
No,
No.
just that last time there was a storm that came through, and it rained quite heavy, and there was some hailstones at the top of one of the steeper climbs. But it was more of an issue of the wind on the run that year, actually, than actually on the bike. I can't actually remember the first 1 or 2 years. Beautiful weather. It's not in my memory of tough winds, and even it's not even in my memory on even on that rainy day. The winds were that particularly tough. But
Let's
again,
face it, if it's a windy day, you don't forget these, as in they
no,
become stuff of legends and folklore. Okay, so I agree with you. Deceiving, everyone says it's a fast course, but it's a fast course if you train for. You get your nutrition, your pacing right, and also don't act the bollocks on some of those hills. To want to coin an Irish phrase. We'll move on a little bit, but just let you know in terms of cut-off times, with your swim time, your T1 time, and your bike time, you've got 10 hours to get the job done. So we will now move on. And now, again, as Owen has correctly mentioned, as you can see, that's our starting point there. That's our T1. And our finish point is over here. So it's a split transition, which in itself brings a little bit of logistics. And we'll talk through at the end of the video. But just before we go ahead, Owen has correctly mentioned aid stations and how important they are. A little bit of a spiel from me. Um, there's two key things. Aid stations on Ironman races are high risk yet high reward areas. What do I mean by high risk? There's a couple of things to remember. It's the only place where you're legally allowed ditch rubbish or trash on the course. So they'll you have to see a start of a start of trash drop, end of trash drop. So you can chuck your bottles there, your wrappers and all the rest. And that's key that you do that because if you don't, two things will happen. If you chuck your bottle into the and you get spotted by Marshall, you'll get DQ'd. And rightly so. We're guests in Germany. We do not actually mess up someone else's back garden. The other thing is, you know, a dick in the triathlon community, no one will like it. So just abide by this rule. It's really, really important. We want Frankfurt to be happy to have Ironman athletes come along every single year, and we don't want to just because. And if we start messing up the countryside, they won't like us. But the other key things to note about an aid station is you will have a water station. Now this looks like it happens over 10 meters. It doesn't. These like are kind of 300 meters long. There's big long water tables with volunteers, and they're holding out bottles that 750 bottles that will fit into a standard bottle cage. You will have the option of water, precision hydration, which is the drink for Europe, Morton gels, fruits, I love the way it's called it fruit. Let's be realistic, it's bananas. And then the option of again ESO and water again. So if you miss your water here, don't panic. Um, the high risk, as I said, people can throw rubbish. There's lots of people moving parts, people moving in, moving out. Athletes are a little bit wobbly on the bikes, so you have to be very careful. But they're high reward because, as other Owen pointed out, there's no point in carrying 5 kg of extra water if you know you've got all these aid stations on the course to take advantage of them. Um, Lots to unpack there, but again, myself and Owen could go on. Talk about this in great detail about things. I have a little video in the comments below which shows you do's and don'ts about how to handle an aid station, and there's also like demonstrations by pros, etc. So make sure you check that out. Anything you want to add on the aid station front there, Owen?
Don't be a dick. That's really all. You know, I've seen. I think most of the accidents I've ever come across during Ironman has been in those areas. Um, Two things. They are just there to get you through the race. If you want to speak about it in a while about the time I DNF'd, I can tell you why, the specific reason why I DNF'd. But from a safety perspective, if you're it's very rare I use aid stations myself. If it is, it's for water and water only. For me, if I'm moving quite fast, I'm very aware. I keep to the left. In some races, be mindful. You can't go really, really left because it could be a white line, and if you cross that white line, it's a DQ. So you need to be mindful of that. Some races, it's no problem. Keep as left as you can if you're moving fast. If you are stopping, and it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you're one of the top guys, slow down, lads. It's the amount of lads who I've seen with severe aggression going water, water, water. You need to be mindful. These people are giving up their day to stand, to give you water, to give you gels, bananas, so on and so forth. If you're an idiot coming at 45 kilometers per hour, expecting to take some hand of a child or whatever, and you miss your bottle, and then you're raging because you didn't slow down like an idiot. You missed the bottle. It's your fault. It's nobody's fault. It's not that little girl's fault or the man's fault. It's your fault. So if you do need aid station stuff, slow down. When you get your water, your banana, or whatever you get, look to over your left shoulder before you pull out. Because Johnny Rocket is going to be coming at 45 kilometers per hour. And if you pull out in front of him, his show's over and your show's over, and it's your fault. It's like you're driving a car. You just don't pull out and you don't look. If you get aid station, number one, be polite, slow down so you can grab your stuff. Number two, when you do get whatever your bits and pieces you do, just take a peek over your left-hand shoulder to make sure that Johnny Rocket's not coming at 50 kilometers per hour and you ruin both him and your day.
Yeah.
Not there.
Yeah, 100%. I'm all about communication as well. And if a very valid point. For me, as I said, like I shout out, I'm coming into the aid station, going into the aid station. I'll make eye contact with the volunteer. Water, water, please. Because manners never go out of fashion. Get the bottle, say thank you in there. And again, as you said, look, but also call out, I'm coming out, I'm coming out. And also because you're, as you said, there could be a bottle dropped in front of you. So I'm more unconscious, a very quick look and then move out. And you're right. The only time I've really ever seen accidents aside from on switchbacks on something like a Mallorca, it's at aid stations. So people switch off. People are trying to act it like was it the act the hero, thinking that it's a domestique that's going to hand in the bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Alrighty. So we've gone through the aid station. We are now coming into T2, which is close in Frankfurt City, and this is the time where we will be looking for our red bag. As I said, and in the red bag is our run bag. In this, you'll have your runners, your shades, and when you're coming in, you'll be putting your helmet in there as well, and anything else you want to discard from your bike kit, and then you'll be running through. So, and again, you have a black bag for your personal needs. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But this is the transition two. Again, I believe I'm trying to figure out where which is the entrance into transition two. It's a little bit hard with the arrows. You remember which way you come in from the bike, Owen?
I forget which way you come in, but one other thing I would say about the bike course is on the course at the end of every lap, there's a 500 meter, maybe even a 1 kilometer tunnel that you actually go through to take you back onto your second lap. Now, so you go from bright sunlight to zero and dark. So most of us wear visors or sunglasses on our thing. So you're coming from beautiful blue skies, hopefully all going well, to pitch black. And so each time I've ever went through it, it was just cross your fingers and hope for the best. That's all it was, because I could see absolutely, all I could hear were disc wheels, and all I could hope was, please, nobody stop pedaling. So if you wear one of the visors, most of aero helmets nowadays, they actually clip off and you can just stick it on your head. Get through the tunnel. It will leave you so that you can see what's more than what you would see with the visor down. Or if you wear sunglasses, if you wear visor, take your glasses off, lads. Tuck your glasses in your tri suit. See where you're going. You know, for the sake of yourself causing an accident or you maybe knocking off somebody else, get those visors off, get those discs off. Be mindful. Coming down the hill into that tunnel, there's railway tracks and it's actually slightly downhill. Each time I've gone down at 55, 60 kilometers per hour and I've hit the railway tracks and the bike's actually bounced quite violently. Be mindful those railway tracks, or tram tracks, sorry, are there. And then you hit the tunnel maybe soon after that. So you go from tram tracks at 60 kilometers per hour to a blind tunnel. So visors off, glasses off. Before that, be very mindful of the tram tracks. Okay,
Excellent.
you too.
All right, so we're transition two. You're in here into your you're coming in this way from the bike, this mountain line's up here somewhere. This is our racks. Will you get to rack your bike? And this is where your red bags will be, and that's your run exit. What's your top tip for a fast T2, or what's your advice for a newbie doing T2?
So, well, a couple of different things. So, both transitions here and both transitions in 98% of Ironmans are identical. So they are. So your bike's a different thing. But when you run out of the swim in the morning time, and for me, it's the thing I always do. So regardless of what number you are, there could be a row of racks here, a row of racks. Well, there will be a row of racks here, in the middle, and here. I've always counted. Okay, I'm 3 down, and I'm on the bottom. So that's it. So I know I don't have to remember my number. Then that'll take me roughly to where I am. Three racks down. 1, 2, 3. Stop. See your number and go. When you get to T2, it is going to be a mirror of what you did that morning time. So, okay, even though you're coming in from the opposite direction, it's still going to be 1, 2, 3 down. There's your bag. And that's it. And it's a really easy way. It's just exactly what I do. Because you have 3,000 bags in there and you go looking for 1, 2, 3. Or if 1, 2, 3 is never too hard to find. But if you're up in the thousands of numbers, there's just so many bags. And so you get that. So just know when you rack your T1, your bike bag, just count. You need something. Is there a bin? Well, the bin don't matter, but 3 racks down on the bottom, 3 racks down on the top. And you will find that your T2 bag in the exact same position when you get off your bike. In Frankfurt, each time I've did it and I've got off the bike, a bike handler or a bike taker, whatever you want to call them, has taken the bike off me. And I think that's still the case.
Oh, bike catchers. Like it.
Yeah. I've never had to rack my bike in Frankfurt. So it may be changed now, but never once have I racked my bike. So the next time I seen my bike after I got off it was when I went to pick it up. I had no idea even where they parked it until you go and pick it up when the race is done.
Cool. Excellent. So that's one less thing to worry about.
Yeah.
And again, so it makes it, and again, for me, T2 should be faster than T1, right? Because there's less thing to worry about. You're not getting out of a wetsuit. You are handing a bike off, and once you get your runners on, you're out the door. And for me, what the guys talk about in the squad is nothing good happens in T2. As in, so do not dawdle, do not sit down, do not think about the fact it's a marathon coming on. Once you get your runners on, start moving. If you've got a gel, you've got a baseball cap or so a visor you want to put on, start running and put that on. Put your shades on in movement because you just got to get out of there and get the run done. Anything else you want to share about T2 before we hop onto the run?
I would possibly agree and disagree with what you just said. For the legs, for the faster guys, I totally agree with what you're saying. Get in, get out. If you're in Midland or maybe this is even your first Ironman, you shouldn't really be in any particular hurry out of T2. Go in. I would sit down. I would get your breath. I would get a drink. I would let everything settle. And just sort of, okay, bike's done. I'm happy. I have one more thing to do. As you said, get a gel in, get your drink. If it's your first time and you're beginner-ish, what is 1 extra minute or 2 extra minutes on your day going to do other than settle your breathing, have a bit of a friendly banter with something, just something to calm the nerves. As you said, don't think it's a marathon. In Frankfurt, I've always broken it down into 10K loops. So the fast guys, get in, get out. Don't dilly dally. Beginners, me personally, I would just say settle yourself, get your drinks. Don't be running it out of T2 like bolt, gas by the time you get to 1K, and then walking for 41K. Take your time.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So we're talking about that run course. Here we are. And again, it is a 4. This is a kind of it used to be a classic Ironman course. Me, you'd have the four 10K loops and a little bit of a dog leg at it. What do you remember from the course, or what's your kind of advice for someone taking on the marathon?
I really enjoyed this course. I'm looking at the map below there, and there's all these bumps, but the bumps are just bumps. It's a really flat course. So those bumps, I assume, are you have to run up and over a couple of bridges. There's
Yes.
no there is no hills on the course. There's that little bump up and over a bridge, but there's just no hills on it. Um,
Yeah, if I
for
remember, it's
me,
the little ramps up there. Remember, you're right beside the river, and then you go up a little ramp, and then you go up above for a little bit and come back down again. But that's
yeah,
it, like.
yeah, no, but for me, I would say it's definitely one of the more flatter run courses you will do. It's definitely like Frankfurt can get pretty hot and pretty sticky. You know, you've probably seen the YouTube stuff and everything. When it gets hot in Frankfurt, it's a pretty miserable place to be running up and down that river. It gets quite humid, and the wind sometimes can funnel up that river, which can lead, which for a couple of years it did to me. There was one, I ran out of transition one year, and I probably would have won the race, the speed I was running at, but I had such a tailwind on the run, and I couldn't figure out what was happening until I went up over the bridge and started to run the other way. And then I realized it was just a tailwind. So be prepared for that type of stuff. The run course is pretty flat. Even in any of the Ironmans, I've never actually ran a marathon in my head. In Frankfurt, it was also, I've only 4 10Ks to go, and I've never actually worried about the last 2K. The 2K comes when the 40K is done. We worry about that whenever we get 40K done. So 4 10Ks in my head. And if it's a 3 loop course, I break it up into 3 loops and so on and so forth. I've never actually got it in my head it's a marathon, because it depends. Certainly if you're a beginner, a marathon's either way, it's quite a long way for anybody. So just break it up into smaller sections, whatever is more manageable for yourself. And the run course is very flat. There's the support in it is absolutely fantastic. I actually don't even think there's one section of the course where you're actually running your own. It's probably one of the few Ironmans where there's just no section where there's no supporters. Over on that far bank, like, it used to be quite cruel. It used to be a Dutch corner or a German corner with some nationality, and it was actually at one of the turnarounds, and they had the barbecues going and they were drinking the big pints of beer.
Yes.
And Jesus, like it was horrible. It was just horrible to run past them. So it was. You smell the food, to see the beer and stuff, and
And they were so encouraging as well.
it
They
was
go like,
great.
"Oh
It
no,
was really,
stop for a
really good.
beer."
Yeah,
No,
yeah, it
no,
was
I
really, really
can't.
good. So like that, it's in terms of crowd engagement, you're never ever on your own. Plus as well too, if you have friends or family with you, there's loads of little walkover bridges. So if you're on this side of the river and you run away down the road, they can actually get up over a bridge and be at the other side long before you actually come. So for friends and family, it's really, really good. Now, it can get quite busy and a wee bit hectic and stuff like that there, because remember, there's 3,000 athletes, and those athletes have all friends and stuff like that there. But it's doable. It's very, very doable, because I know in the times I was there, Ashley was able to run over back and forth for every lap I was doing. So
Yeah,
that
no,
was,
that yeah, it is a mint of a course. And
yeah.
again, there's lots of aid stations as well. I know, for me as well, my day I was very hot and all this, but there's tons of aid stations, roughly one every mile. The format is quite the same as beforehand with the water isotonic cola. Instead, now you're handing them out in cups rather than the water bottles on the aid station. Other difference there is they give out Coke, and there's toilets, etc. So again, for me, I never miss an aid station if it's just a case of getting on some fuel or I'm taking on some water. If it's hot, I'm pouring water down my front just to keep my core temperature down. So make sure you take advantage. Any other last minute tips on the run course before we move on to some race day stuff?
The run course, again, if you're at the top end of the field, practice drinking out of the water, because I see so many people trying to emulate what the pros do, and they put more water over their face than anything else. You need to drink the water. If the plan is to drink the water, drink it. If you're putting the water over your head, well, don't worry about it. Definitely practice drinking out of those little plastic cups. It does take practice to get the water of them. If you're the beginner, stop and walk through the aid station.
Yeah.
Every single aid station, and do it from aid station 1. Don't get full of adrenaline and go, I can maybe run this. My personal suggestion would be, for a beginner, is to jog to every aid station, walk through it, drink, cool, ice, calm, heart rate down, breathing nice and settled, and then just run on to the next aid station. And don't think of there's 20 aid stations, and just run into every aid station. And if it is a particularly hot day, your ice down the front, ice down the back. If you do, I never like wearing hats. But if you do wear a hat, for example, get the ice in it, put the hat over your head. I like to run with a headband, even at that too. Grab the ice in your hand and just shove the ice into the top of your headband. It's unbelievably cooling. I know they have those little cooling ads now. I'm not too sure how effective they are, but I find putting the ice down the headband very, very effective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great tips there. So, in terms of what your swim T1, bike T2, and it's actually 15 hours. Now, a lot of people go, oh, I thought the Ironman were always 17 hours. No, there's certain races that are, because they're known for being a faster bike course and due to road closures as well, that
Yeah.
Ironman have compressed timelines. This is one of the courses, so bear that in mind. But again, as Owen pointed out, if you pace the bike and you fuel on the bike and it's a dead flat run and you fuel and manage your heat on the run, all the rest, you should have no trouble. Well, especially as long as you've done the training. But again, that's where you need to talk to a great coach like Owen if you're trying to get a PB at this course. Details at the end. This is the finish line for Frankfurt. Sorry for, yeah, for Frankfurt. Absolutely brilliant. Or one of my big time life memories for my first ever Ironman finish. The crowd are absolutely mental. It's great time. Um, we will talk a little bit about the actual sort of race day logistics, etc. You can register from Thursday onwards and Friday onwards. So that they typically, and again, check the race day briefing. The athlete guide when comes out, and they change the timetable sometimes, and all of us attend the athlete briefing. But you can register from as early as 2 p.m. on the Thursday. There will be race briefings on the Friday as well. Make sure you do attend these because there's stuff going on and there's really, really important information that might change last minute. The really important stuff is on Saturday. This is where you have to drop off your run bag, your bike check-in, and your bike check-in, and that happens between 12 and 6 on the Saturday. And for the bike, we have to get a I remember those. There were the tr buses that went out, or we'd rented a car. How did you get out to the T1 with your bike
For bike check-in or race morning.
for bike checking?
So bike check-in, all the times I was there, I was actually with a travel company. So we had a private shuttle out. But at that Ironman for bike check-in does do a bike check-in shuttle from downtown Frankfurt. So if you don't have a rental car or if you're not with a travel company, don't stress. Ironman Germany in particular are extremely efficient. You will get out no problem whatsoever to rack your bike on the Saturday before the race. It's not a problem whatsoever. Like you just said, some people do rent cars. Car rental is probably not a good option, I don't think, because you're not actually allowed to park out there
Yeah.
at race weekend, and you're certainly not allowed to park out there race morning. If you are, it's quite a bit away. But note, me personally, if you're going to do it, I would use the race day shuttle. If you're staying, I stay downtown Frankfurt. If you're staying in downtown Frankfurt, I would use the shuttle that Ironman puts on. For the simple reason is, as I mentioned a while ago, if you use a private, if you Uber it out, for example, on race morning, Uber can only go a certain distance, and it's actually 1.5 miles from where they drop you off to where you can actually walk into transition. So if you're anywhere near tight for time, as we were, the bus driver got lost on us one day, and it was the best warm up I ever did for an Ironman. We got off, we sprinted the mile. We got our wetsuits on, and I walked and I stood on the beach to swim. I was actually still breathing and still sweating. So like that's one of the best warm ups I've ever did. I wouldn't recommend it. So race day shuttle, Ironman will take you that mile up the road. Far better off doing that. And be noteful, if you make your own way out, there's quite a walk from where you park your car to you walk actually into transition.
Fantastic. Cool. And then on race day itself, transition opens up at 4:30 until 6:15. Again, as Owen pointed out, get that race day shuttle. That's what I did. It made life a lot easier. Get there early in case anything goes wrong. Your rolling start will start at 6:35, and then you're bang on and having a great day out in Frankfurt. So, right, that is all we're going to do for the cover. And what I want to do very quickly is just again shout out Owen in terms of for his time and his input for all the knowledge he shared there. He's been absolutely brilliant. He is also, as I said, you can just tell he knows his stuff inside out. If you're looking for a top-notch coach for Frankfurt, for other Ironman races, I've put his email address in there. I put his other contact details in the comments. Make sure you hit him up. He is a great man to have in your corner. I know he's very highly regarded in Ireland and all the rest, and he has gotten a lot of places to pay people to have make serious improvements. Otherwise, post comments in the YouTube channel, and I will also pick up that way. But again, um, I will just say from everyone is all the viewers and from myself, Owen, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely enlightening. I've done the race, but I felt I actually learned even more even just listening to yourself. Any last words for any nervous newbies watching this video?
Not really. Just sign up. If for me, it's certainly one of the races for a first time person I would do. The swim, it won't be a choppy swim. I know the non wetsuit thing may put some people off. I wouldn't let it put you off. The swim will be flat. There'll be no waves. There'll be no current. There'll be no nothing like that. The bike course, as I said, generally the weather conditions is good. It's not flat, so you will need to train. And the run course is flat, but you have 180 km on your bike. So again, it's a super race. As I said, I went back and did it 4 times, and I would even go back and do it again. I would have no difficulty going back and doing it again.
I think I've been a bit too humble there. You went back and dominated from what I heard. So listen,
Yeah.
again, we will say thank you ever so much, and we'll leave it there, Owen. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated.
Cheers, Stephen. Thank you.